Well, welcome tonight to our fall shepherding session here at Grace, and I'm excited for the night because this is just a time where we, as members of Grace, can just come together, can kind of get an update on what's going on right now in Grace and what we see in the future. A chance to interact a bit and so forth. So we're really glad that you're here. And as is appropriate, I'd like to start us off with prayer. This is a session. The shepherding session is a session that, according to our Constitution, happens twice a year, where we come together and just kind of connect about what's going on in the church. And so it's something that the elders put on in conjunction with the pastoral staff. And so, Steve, one of our elders, why don't you come up and pray for us? Thank you.
Lord, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for any opportunity that we can gather with our fellow believers and friends. We ask that you would guide us and direct us tonight, Lord. We thank you for Grace Church. We thank you for what you have done here, Lord. We thank you for what you're doing here right now, Lord. And we thank you for the future that you will provide for us, Lord. Watch over us tonight and going forward, and bless our discussion tonight, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, thank you, Steve. All right, if we could move to the agenda slide. So I have to say, I was talking to Robert up ahead, and I said, listen, you're going to be controlling my slides up there. So I said, why don't I just, say next slide? And he said, no. He said, we're old enough to remember this. When you want me to advance, you just need to say boop. I said, I am not saying boop. So I'll do something. But, no, go on past that. Yeah, go on past that. Go to the agenda slide, please. Yeah, one more. There we go. All right, thank you. Okay, so in terms of the agenda and where we're going with this, so you might remember that 2 or 3 years ago we set about a process to kind of adjust our governance, a journey to adjust our governance process, and so now basically what happens is that as the elder team, we interact with people. We have open questions in the life groups if you've been part of that. And then we come up with ministry ends. And those ministry ends, then the pastoral staff look at the ministry ends, and these are just high-level aspirational objectives of where we think God is leading us as a church. And then the pastoral staff looks at it and puts specifics to that. And so that's at a very high level what things look like. So we're going to give you an update on the ministry ends. We're going to do a celebration of grace because the last thing we want is to just have this be a business meeting. And we see God's hand involved in so much. We see so much effort from a lot of you here, reaching out to people and loving people in Jesus' name. And so a little bit of a celebration of grace. We will have a financial update and some business items. And then one of the things that when we have talked to people about open questions that comes up consistently is that people say, I'm encouraged when I hear people's stories and I see the stories of grace, and that's something, not only does it help people get to know other people in the church, but you also get encouraged by somebody taking a step out maybe in faith and seeing what God did with it. So we're going to have I think, our first ever official live story of grace. So we will have that up here. A little time for a question and answer. And then at the very end, we just have a simple 5-question survey that you can access with your smartphone. And we'd love to just kind of get your feedback on these sessions and help us plan. Wow, models. Is this a modeling session? And oh, no, wait. Oh, that's my wife. Excellent. All right, Robert, can we go to ministry ends? Yeah. All right. Okay. So these ministry ends, as I was talking about, we have 4 this year, and the first one was it was in the area of COVID. Basically, what we're saying is our world is still reeling from this whole COVID experience, and it's changed people's lives. people have been impacted in immeasurable ways, I think, through this. A lot of people have. Some people who are going to churches aren't going to churches anymore. People may have considered mortality more than they ever have. So this ministry end is all about putting some cycles into thinking about, okay, as Grace, there's an opportunity here to touch people who are in different places than they were 2 years ago. Is there something that we can do? Let's just give that some thought to be intentional about this. So the official ministry end is to be a church that's intentional about rebuilding, reconnecting, and emerging stronger after COVID. COVID affected us a lot too as well, and we have our own members, former members, that some of whom haven't come back since COVID. So let's give this some thought and be intentional about it. Second is spiritual growth and community. Let's be a church where people seamlessly connect in relationships that foster spiritual growth. One of the things that we've heard in our open question sessions is that some people feel like you kind of need a secret handshake to get involved in small groups here at Grace, and it shouldn't be like that. And so that's that's the second ministry end. Let's be a place where people can seamlessly connect. If they want to connect, they can connect, and we reduce the friction in that process. And we have kind of a tagline there that has big implications, but we want to be a church of small groups, not just a church with small groups, where small groups are the key to what we do here at Grace. Okay, third, the next generation. How can we give some intentional thought to the next generation and be in a church where the next generation finds vitality and relevance and so forth here at Grace? So let's be a church that reaches and grows a new generation to carry forth the ministry of Grace Church. And finally, is this notion of living on mission. And that is, Pastor Joel has talked about it a number of times, but it's that notion that 24/7, every one of us is on mission. And having that awareness and thinking about how intentionally to connect with people and let God use us the way that He wants to use us in the lives of whoever we're touching 24/7 in whatever circles we run. So let's be a church that actively encourages and provides opportunities for people to live out their faith in tangible ways. Okay, let's provide opportunities for people to do that. Okay, so those are just to review those. I think we saw those maybe during the last session. I can't remember, but anyhow, those are definitely the ones going forward here. Yeah, you should have seen those before, I think. But so in terms of an update on these things, so number one, COVID, what's going on? So Joel has given me some of the updates from the staff about, okay, how are we tackling these things? And so one of the things is to have the ministry leaders identify some of the challenges that we experienced as a church during the pandemic shutdown and figure out, okay, what could we do if something like this happens again? And is there something we can do? Are there things that we can do as a church where we're better prepared for these kinds of things, to minister, to connect in these kinds of situations? Second, on connecting people, there's a greater focus. We'll talk more about like the small groups, but there's a greater focus on connecting people through personal relationship and on life groups, rather than just coming on Sunday mornings and expecting any kind of connection to come out of that, or much connection to come out of Sunday mornings. So that the life groups are more kind of the glue that hold us together. Okay, number two, again, this is a place where we can, or this is a ministry and where we can be a place where people seamlessly connect in relationships that foster spiritual growth. So we have a kind of a new, or a renewed, I guess I should say, renewed focus on building life groups. And part of the deal there is leaders, right? When people want to join life groups, you have some life groups where people say, you know what, we're loaded. And so we're not in a place where we can take more people. other life groups say we can take them, bring them on. But then you have things like Alan and Tedra, where they just had a camping trip with 45 people on the camping trip for their life group. So that, not that that's a bad thing, but at some point you're thinking, okay, we need to multiply or something because this is getting hard to deal with. But so a key part of life groups and having a place where if somebody walks through our doors and they're saying, "Can I get involved in a life group?" They've got a place to go. And so we have a renewed focus on that. Also, along those lines, can we improve the way that people get connected here? Is it clear when somebody comes how they can kind of get connected and get to know people and so forth? And we have some more energy around that. We the different ministries are thinking about this and what this will look like and what this can look like and should look like. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute through our membership process. Okay, in fact, we'll talk about it now. Number 3 is be a church that reaches and grows a new generation to carry forward the ministry of Grace Church. And so part of that is to kind of improve the membership process. And David Kiperos, if you could come up, and he's one of the elders that's been focused on helping improve the membership process to date. I think we've had 41 people join the church this year. So David, can you just give us an update on that?
How are y'all doing? Mic check. How are y'all doing? So raise your hand if walking around Sunday morning, if you've seen someone that is new or you haven't met before. Yes. Now raise your hand if you've noticed someone that you used to talk to and haven't seen them in a while. Yes. So Grace is definitely experiencing some transition, some change, and the membership ministry is kind of seeing this. We've had 41 people who've come through the membership process, and they've attended 3 different things. So that's kind of a lot of stuff that they've been through.
David, what's the time frame? I mean, is that 41 people this year?
From January. Yeah, and that was as a report, I think 3 weeks ago. So from a Grace standpoint, that's like a ton of people for our church. That's in a short time frame. Many of them found us through YouTube or through some social media. So kudos to the hard work that you guys are doing in the media. 3 key things pop out as a trend from all these interviews. People are looking for a local church. They're looking for something that's geographically close to them. Those who have school-age kids, they're looking for help with how to pray with their kids, how to minister to their kids, ways to be better parents spiritually. Kids who have teenagers are really excited about the youth ministry. So those are kind of the 3 highlights. But thank you for everyone who's been working hard to welcome these new families, and I appreciate your help.
Thank you so much, David. Hey, big hand for David. He's put in so much effort making sure to coordinate the sessions and the interviews and run overview sessions, and really has put in a lot of work, and I think we're seeing the fruit of that. Along those lines, just a reminder though, if you are sitting in church and you see somebody that you haven't seen in a while, please go up to them and just say, "Hey, how long have you been coming to Grace?" That's fair. Then they say, "Well, I'm your son-in-law," and but just ask that, and maybe they'll say, "Actually, we've been here about 5 years." Well, okay, but lesson learned, right? But they might say, "This is our first time here or our second time here," and just reaching out, and so they came and they connected, and then just come and leave, come and watch and leave. So, okay, the second item in here in reaching the next generation is pursuing a children's ministry leadership position. Somebody who can focus on the children's ministry and give it more attention. Blair's doing a lot of this now, and he's trying to juggle that with the other things that that he is doing, and we would love to have somebody who can just really focus on the kind of the elementary level and early childhood folks. Right now, we're struggling with budget on this. We're struggling with the budget to be able to hire somebody. So Blair will talk about finances a little bit more, but that is where we are, and we're trying to figure out. Okay, is this something that we believe God wants us to step out into the water on? And if we do, He will provide? Or is this something that God would want us to make sure that we've got everything all set out financially before we ever take this step forward? And it's a tough question sometimes. It's a tough question as a family, and it's a tough question as a church sometimes. But that's where we are now, trying to figure this out. Okay? And then the last item here is to invest in our young adults. And Carl is here. Carl is leading the young adult group. It is so encouraging. Trish and I, we're in there every Sunday that we're here, and we just get to interact with these young adults. And often, maybe 12 or so of us on a Sunday morning. But it is just so fun under Carl's leadership to watch folks. It's really an inductive study that, in essence, basically we're just reading through the book of Mark. Carl will set out a section, says today we're going through these, and we just go through the 3 steps: observation, interpretation, and application. What does it say? What does it mean? And how do I live differently as a result? And so pretty straightforward. But people have said, I have gotten more out of this than I ever have gotten out of church or studies in the past. And it's really fun. A lot of good interactive discussion. It's really fun to see that. But as part of the church's investment, the church has invested in that portable building, making it something that's a little nicer than it was if you had been out there. I think we've got some pictures later. But it looks like a warm place, and Bill, I think, had the vision to just make this kind of a warm place where you could have a cup of coffee and just chat with somebody, or you could get together with a group or whatever. And it is much more like that than it was. And so the young adults have gone to the home store, the rehome, right? The rehome store, Habitat for Humanity, Restore. Thank you. Thank you, Brain. And have gotten couches so that they've got couches in there, and it's a little more comfortable than just tables in the middle. So there's been some investment there in the young adults. Okay, and then finally, the fourth ministry end is encouraging people to live on mission. There are several elements: encouraging them to live on mission, encouraging them to tell their stories, and providing opportunities for them to get involved in ministry. And the church does this periodically. The youth service week is just an amazing opportunity for that. I just love that event because it's not just the youth coming together and heading out, but it's the church coming together to support the youth to go out and make a difference in their communities. So it's kind of an all hands on deck effort, and I think that's a great example of that. We mentioned stories of grace. We'll see more of those stories of grace. And I had somebody come up to me today and say, "Hey, I've got a great idea for stories of grace," and as part of this living on mission and this mindset of 24/7. When you step out in faith and you trust God and you see God deliver, you see God do something as a result, or when you see somebody else do this, then talk to us about potentially being as stories of grace, because it's just encouraging to people. It encourages us to see others of us doing that. All right, Joel, is there anything else in this that I've missed that you want to highlight, or? Yeah, covered all. He's like, just wake me up here, Russ. Okay, so I also are there any questions on the ministry ends here before we move forward? We will have a Q&A time at the end, but before I step off of this, yeah, comments are okay, Nicole. posterity.
Dave's mic check. Mic check.
Thank you. Okay, one of the cool things that I noticed that was, and I don't know if it had just started happening, but when Chris and I first became members of the church, we were interviewed originally by 2 elders. And now I've noticed, because I've been on 2, that it is 2 elders, but it's with the elders' wives. And I think that that's a big deal for the female person in the room that is being interviewed. I think that that has been such a positive improvement. It just seems to make it seem a little bit more relaxed.
That's really nice. Well, you definitely softened Chris up a bit. So, no. No, thank you for saying that, Nicole. It is so nice to have our wives in there, and then they get to know new people as well, and it makes the new people more comfortable, like you say. That's excellent. Okay, Joel, you had a few more. Oh, any other questions? Oh, okay, yeah. Hey, let's do this, okay? After Bill puts the mic down, then somebody over here can, and we'll just see how long it can last.
Are you going to elaborate later about a plan for helping people get connected in life groups? Or is there more detail about that?
We can elaborate more on that. Maybe Joel can do that here, or maybe Bill could do that. But yeah, thank you, Joel.
Yeah, I'm going to let Bill do that. Bill, if you want to come on up here anytime you're ready, and you can answer that one. And I just want to speak. Russ did a great job of putting all those things together, and I just want to continue to encourage you in the theme of this. There's been a lot of change at Grace in the last 2 years. Who would ever thought we'd have? Yeah, who would ever thought? Just leave it like that. And I look at that too, and I just think, wow, the changes in the last 2 years have been phenomenal. And that's caused a fair amount of tension. It does in any body when you change that dramatically. I mean, it's been good stuff and difficult stuff. And we celebrate 41 new members, but we've probably lost close to 40 people in that time who are not here anymore. And some of them are here yet, they would say, maybe watching online, they just don't ever come to church anymore. And, the thing we need to work through is that some of them would say they don't intend to ever come to church anymore. So we need to look at how that impacts us as a ministry, as a church, and what we're going to do for the future in that regard. But here's the deal. Whenever you incorporate a lot of new people into a body, there's a level of discomfort where people go, I don't know those folks. And I sense that among people who have been here longer, myself included, that you look around and say, I don't know these folks anymore. So what we really need from y'all is to be so open and friendly and welcome new people in, just like Russ said. Whatever tagline you want to use, walk up to someone you don't know and just give them a great big kiss and say, Russ told me to do that. Well, maybe not that, although that is, Rick, that is biblical, though. I mean, that's with some parameters around that. But, just welcome them. And who cares if they say, well, I've been here for 5 years. Well, if you don't know someone, you don't know someone. And start there and get to know them. So look around. You can really help us with that. One of the things we've been challenged with is our welcome ministry. And Teresa is really, there she is over there, has really picked up the bulk of the load on that. Sue Harmon did that for many years, moved up to Oklahoma, and so Teresa takes that. But she can use all the help that you can give her, opening doors, welcoming people in the hallway, greeting, being at the connection point, things like that. We really need people to be involved in that area. So I'm not going to go into any of the specifics on these things. I think you covered them well. But I would just encourage you to, work with us, be patient when things take a little longer. One of the outcomes of the whole pandemic change has been a lot of technology changes, how we do things. And we've struggled some with that. We're trying to move the entire database and everything to I don't even know what you call it, community church builder, I guess it is, and trying to get stuff online so that, I was sitting, well, I was taking my phone down there, if I want to get someone's information, I just go to the church app, which I hope you all have downloaded the church app. And in saying so, I know that you haven't because I've looked at the numbers, but it would help us fill out the profile because some of this involves if we want to share each other's information, you need to input it. So lots of times I'll be looking for someone's information, a phone number, a birthday, whatever. If you haven't inputted it, I think this is correct. We don't have it in that at this point. We still have an old database, but the new system requires you to input. Am I kind of right on that, Teresa? Yeah. Well,
Activation emails. Thank you. Oh, hi. We'll send out activation emails if you guys have not received an activation email, which we have not put it out church-wide yet because we've invited smaller groups in because there have been some glitches that we're trying to work through. So there will be more talk about getting people to activate their password, go in, look at their profile, update information, and then you give permissions, and this is where you're talking about, Joel. You have to give permission for people to see your information. So you have certain levels. So some people may say, I only want church leadership to know my information. Some people won't care and will say, hey, anybody can have my information. So yes, you do have to go in and put that in so that, but that's Church Community Builder.
so we'll get more information out on that, but suffice it to say at this point, as we get that out, please work with us on that. We need your help to complete that stuff and to move this forward because we really do want to get a lot of that stuff in a format that's up to date. And for some of us, like me, who are maybe challenged a little bit more by that, it's going to take a little bit more work, but it'll make us better in the long run when we do all of that. The same thing is true for communication. We communicate differently to y'all as a church now. We send out stuff on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Tuesday is general information about stuff coming up in the church, announcements, stuff like that. And Thursday, it's kind of like the weekend schedule, what's going on. And that's how we communicate now. We don't do bulletins anymore. We don't do that kind of stuff. Occasionally we send out e-blasts that will have more up-to-date or present information going out. But here's the deal, as we look at the numbers, if you don't open the stuff, you aren't going to know about it. I just had someone, we were running an event and, out there and someone said, I never knew. Why? And I said, listen, sorry, it goes out every week. Every week it goes out. Yeah, but I never opened that. I'm not really apologizing. I'm just encouraging you. It might not be the most exciting thing, but that's how we communicate now. And it does save us a lot. It saves us a lot of time in mailings because, you don't open your email, but you really don't open your snail mail. I know that too. Some of you still have a pile out there. But please just work with us on that. If you ever have any questions, if you're ever missing something, hey, why isn't, call us, contact us. Russ would be glad to answer anything that you want. Bill, the question came off about small groups. A big part of the ministry here is really getting people into small groups. So you talk a little bit about that.
So, to get to where you want to go, you need to know where you currently are. And even after COVID, we realized the value of life groups because the people who stayed, who were here, were involved somehow. They were connected. And so I think it's a difficult task to go from a church with small groups to be a church of small groups. That really literally is two different organisms. And so we're continuing to look through that. This last year in an encouragement side, we've actually gained 4 new groups. And so in the midst of it, under the wraps, we've had new groups coming in. And everybody who comes in that desires a group will eventually, if they get to my desk and I find out that that they want it, which we've done a good job connecting that to me, and so we're able to get them into groups or start new groups in the midst of that. But it's more than just getting them in a group, and that's something we've all talked about, is the process of hearing what people have had over the last year. This is kind of setting the GPS as to where we are to know where we want to go, is we've noticed that people are really lonely and they've been in groups before. And so we don't want to make that mistake. We want to get them in a place where they're known. And so in that comes intentionality and the leadership and who they are. And, some of our groups have been around for, no joke, 20 years. And so we're talking about two different wineskins coming together. And not to get into the quality of wine, but, a 1968 tastes a lot better than a 2017. And so, anyways, grape juice, mic check. And so there's not a lack of value in either one. It's just knowing where we are to blend the two. And so that's been a lot of what we're doing. And in the midst of that, we have been kind of picking up the ball with grabbing new people, connecting them with someone, seeing how they work. You ever been in a group and you're like, these are not my people, but I'm stuck here for 9 years? We don't want to do that. So we're trying to create organic connection before they start a group. And we're also trying to engage our new leaders to say, I need you to go out and find people. Find people who are like-minded. Now, there can be a fear of a clique or things like that, but we're really trying to move from the what ifs to the what could be. And really, people don't have time for 500 people, but they have time for 5. And so we want to make it intentional that the people they're doing life with, they're actually, the people that are in their life group, they're actually going to do life with. So we're creating that tension. So, and that's happening in a lot of our groups that have been around for 20 years. But then sometimes it's just, we're trying to still work through that. That's really kind of that from the high level is really trying to just continue to recreate our culture. And in the midst of it, we have a book that we now have for our leaders that's pretty simple at this point. We haven't redone our curriculum. Even in COVID, we just kind of got knocked around. We had a few different people that were helping us out in our in our, at that time, small group. Now we're calling them life group ministry. And some of those people couldn't be a part of it anymore, which is not a huge thing, but it's more finding new people to help minister to our leaders. And if we can get our leaders all knowing that they're all healthy, we can work together to really impact them, and then their groups will follow suit, and we can continue that process. So that's kind of a high level. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of where we are currently with life groups.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Bill. Well, let me talk for a minute about just an update on the ministry and schedule. So, yeah. All right. So, just the first one, Robert. That's fine. So, in general, here's how the whole ministry ends process works. You can see fiscal year number 1. The elder team is developing ministry ends, right? This new, we're interacting with the body. The whole idea behind this is that God's Spirit isn't just in the elder team or in the pastoral staff or whoever. God's Spirit is in all of us. And so let's figure out what God's doing in the lives of our body. That is us. It's all of us, right? And then let's pray about it and interact with it and see if we can craft some ministry ends. So we do that during a fiscal year. Okay, that's the blue fiscal year 1 there. Okay, then you can see the blue down below. We hand that off to the executive staff, or to the pastoral staff, and the pastoral staff puts a plan to it, puts specifics to it, and starts working toward those ends. Okay, here's how we can tackle this one. If this is what we're trying to get to, here's some ways we can do that. And so they as part of the planning in the fiscal year number 1, they put together a plan, and then when fiscal year 2 starts, they start executing their plan to this. Meanwhile, the way it's intended originally is that then we're the elders are off interacting with folks and figuring out what the ministry ends look like for the next year, and maybe some will stay the same, maybe some will change, and so forth. So you can see it's like an annual cycle. That was how we originally set it up. Now it's new to all of us. We're just getting used to it. We've changed it this year in the sense that we developed, okay, thank you, Robert. we developed the ministry ends for 21 and 22, or sorry, 20 and 21. And then we gave it to the pastoral staff. We as an elder team were late getting it to the pastoral staff. And then there have been some challenges in terms of getting the plan put together and everything. So we basically said, you know what, instead of us just working now to try to get together another set of ministry ends and so forth, starting in 2022 and so forth. These are good ministry ends. What I just showed you, they're good ministry ends. The next generation, the small group element of it, these things, they're good things. The living life on mission. So let's just continue on with those ministry ends for 2 years. And continue pushing towards those. If we hit those in 2 years in any significant degree, I think we'll be doing great as a church. I think we'll have more stickiness, like Joel said. People come in, but other people go out. Well, part of the reason people go out is they're just not connected that well. And if we can build this out and do this better, I think people will stay longer, and they're seeing God work in their life and the life of others. And I think it will be good overall. So I just wanted to say that at least for this one, we've extended it out to 2 years. Now, Howard has been telling me this needs to be a 2-year cycle anyway. He said just trying to do this every year is nuts. But I don't know. So we're new to this, but for this one, we're going to keep the same ministry ends now going out for the next fiscal year. Okay? All right. So now, just a celebration of grace, and what I'd love to do, Jill, or Blair, you have the mic? Excellent. So I'd love to, as we're stepping through something like this, if you have something to add about a particular element that we bring up, that would be wonderful. It would be great. So just let me know. But one of the things, and Pastor West talked about it a lot when he did the Youth Sunday, but this Youth Service Week, a big deal in June. A lot of you were host homes. A lot of you volunteered in one way or another. There's a great opportunity for our church to go out and impact. We're impacting the world, and God is impacting us as we're doing this. Really a neat thing. Any other thoughts on the Youth Service Week? Or we had 5 or 6 different teams go out to different places, and really a neat experience. Okay, let's step on to the next one. This was the bags for walkers, right? That some people got together in the church and sewed bags to put on walkers for seniors or people who are having a harder time getting around. And so really, what a neat thing. And you can see a collection of bags up there that they put together. I was not a part of that, and people are probably thankful I wasn't a part of that. Anybody else want to say anything else about that was there?
Hey, Russ, I will add one thing, and the pictures really kind of point this out. You'll see over there on the left, we've got a young lady who had the opportunity. We talk about how you make disciples who make disciples, and we connect, and what does that really mean, and all this kind of stuff. You'll see that young lady came to sew bags because she could, but she connected with an entire other generation of people who were sewing bags. There was more than just sewing bags going on here. There's a little life-on-life encouragement that happened between generations. One of the great things about Grace is we're a multi-generational church, and this is one example where we get to see cross-generational interactions happening, and a young lady who's learning and liking to sew is now getting to connect with some of our older ladies who are doing that. So that's just another thing other than the bags that we delivered outside the body. God was doing stuff inside our body.
Yeah, I love it. And that vision, and part of that's that 24/7 on mission, right? Yes, we're making bags, but there's somebody right next to me who might need something, and there's an opportunity to touch them, and really, really neat. I love that. I remember one time we were painting the facility, kind of spiffing it up, right? And I saw, I think it was Bill there with a youth, and he was like, "Okay, let me show you how to do this." If you've never seen Bill paint, I mean, it's wonder. It's like watching Picasso on something, right? But he's like, flip, because you did this for a living, right? So he knows this stuff. And so here were some young people that were trying to paint, and he's accelerating their development in the area of painting because he knows it. He can. I love to see that. Thank you, Blair. Very good. Okay, the facade renovations. This has been something that we've seen in the last 6 months. That the face of Grace to our community, the bricks and mortar face has changed. And I know Blair is going to talk more about this, but for me personally and our family, it's been really exciting to just come and just see the new things that have gone on there. And I personally feel like it really does look fresher and newer. And I wonder if it makes people as they drive by think, huh, there's something going on there, right? So. So neat to see. It'll be interesting to see if we hear some of those stories rolling in. Hey, I saw something changed here, and just thought. I think if nothing else, it kind of says, hey, there's life here. You know, people don't do this if this is a church that is in decline or decaying or whatever. They don't freshen this up. So I think we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Blair will talk about that more in a minute. An outreach, right? Brock Gill. How many of you were at the Illusionist Brock Gill session? Okay, about half of us, maybe 40%. So just an opportunity to reach out to families, maybe families we saw over the summer, and just provide a place for them to have some fun, wholesome family entertainment, as well as a presentation of the gospel. And so a neat way to reach out to folks. The kids camps that go on tirelessly. Well, is it tirelessly or not really tirelessly? Yeah, throughout the summer. How many weeks out of the summer do we do this?
We do 1 week where we turn everything over to the people at Sky Ranch, and they come in, they bring everybody. We just provide a facility, and they do that. So that's 1 week. And then this year we had 3 other weeks, 2 other weeks in June, and 1 other week in July.
And people were learning guitar, and they were learning crafts, right? And
a whole variety of things.
All kinds of different
right?
things.
Because God created everybody differently. So we're finding ways, as opposed to just being the 5th time you've attended the same VBS, we're finding ways to connect with different people and get, I was actually getting ready to leave one day, and we're connecting with some other folks, and someone was in the building with our 2 young girls who's not part of Grace and was in here for something else, and she said, oh yeah, we just really love those summer camps that you guys did. My girls were able to do cheer, and they were so excited to do that. You're doing that again next year, right? And so we're connecting with a lot of people we wouldn't have otherwise connected with through the various summer camps that we do.
Excellent.
Yes, and in case we forget, there's a biblical basis to all of this, right? This is what differentiates us, right? It's not just that you're learning cheer, you're playing soccer. We have integrated the Bible and lessons in building relationship with Christ into all that we do in our summer camps.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I remember I was talking to Kyle, one of our guitarists, a few months ago, I guess, and he had just come off of that, and so he volunteered his time to get in there with kids who wanted to learn how to play guitar, and because this is something he could do, and he could reach out. But like Blair says, it's all in the context of a relationship with the Lord. Really neat. Okay. Then, of course, recently the trunk or treat, and I don't think I was here. Was there a winner announced? Oh yeah, we've got something to say about trunk or treat.
No, I have something to say about kids camp.
Oh, kids camp.
So I have a granddaughter, and I'm here all year for Jim, but she's not in town. Their church hadn't been meeting, so she hadn't been anywhere practically, and I signed her up for kids camp. Of course, she had just barely qualified age-wise, so of course, not having been outside of her home much, and then mom having to trust new people, but I of course knew all of them and trusted, and even though it was a little bit challenging, she loved it.
Oh,
she said, are we going to sing that Jesus song again? And then, and she still will refer to it now. Mom has her in Awana, memorizing scripture, and she still sort of calls it cheer camp.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Sherry. Good. And so the trunk or treat, I think I might have missed. Was there an actual winner of trunk or treat, Bill? Was there a contest?
Yeah, there was 3 winners. So
3 winners.
yeah,
Did okay? We've got a little contention about this. Yeah.
yeah, the painters won. They won theirs. Yeah, so it was like a Poseidon anti-God kind of thing. I'm just kidding. So yeah, they won. No, but it was a great time. We had close to 500 here, and so it was a little less than last year, but actually it was more successful because people got to stop and talk. And so there's a lot more connections. So I would define this one as a greater success. Last year was let's just go buy more candy and keep handing it out because it seemed like kids didn't stop. But this year was the most successful year we've had for Trunk or Treat because people were able to really make some good connections.
That's great. That's great. Good. All right. And then we had this series we just finished up that Pastor Joel led us on, and that other people were leading studies on in the church, and life group leaders were doing this, and so forth. But as I was putting this together, I was just reminded about these different components. A generous church in a stingy world. I mean, you look at these components. I was looking at it not just for us as a church, really. I look down that list and I think, man, if we could do these things well, and that was us, and I think a lot of them, I think we're not far from. I think some of them we have a further distance to go on. But if this was us, we were a church that's a joyful church, a united church, a generous church, a light in the darkness, a truthful church, a serving church. I think God would be honored with that if we did it with the right motives, and I think we would. But I think that is a great target. And even as I was looking through it, I was just kind of thinking of it. The church is the people, and I think a lot of the applications for me came down not to us as a church, but to me as an individual. Am I living as light in darkness? Am I living in truth? In the world of a lot of craziness out here, and where it's hard to find truth. Am I living joyfully in a world that's suffering? So I think as we seek God and we seek to live to follow Him, and He does these things in our lives, He's going to be doing these things in our church. That's how it works. And we as a church have that reputation, and there's just that's very compelling, I think, if people see a church that is like that in the context of all the craziness going on right now. Thank you, Joel, for taking us through that. Okay, all right. Now, financial update. Pastor Blair, if you could lead us through this would be great.
Yeah, probably a little bit, because otherwise I'll be turning around and stuff. It's always good to know where you're at, right? I think you already used hey, you got to know, if you want to know where you're going to go, you got to know where you are and kind of make a plan. So here's kind of where we're at. So anyone who was wondering, because, since we don't necessarily see this every week, you don't see it every week, we see it every week. But since you don't, thought we should give you an update on things that we're doing. You can see here, this is the team that's been working through those updates to the facade and, all that. Remember, we did get new flooring this year, right? We've had it now for a few months, and so that it kind of gets old and you forget about it. But we have, these are the ways we invested. Of course, if you're a math person, you're going to say, wait a minute, we only had 150K and you've got 151. That's all rounding stuff, folks, that we're doing here. But what we did with 150 of equity when we pulled out for the refinance, here's how we've invested it as we were looking at saying, hey, we want to kind of freshen up what we look at. We will be getting a new cross that'll go out here. It'll be backlit on this front wall. So, steeples came down, but we're putting the cross up there so we can still have that. We have the new flooring. There's landscaping going. There's a little bit more that we have to do out front to get that on. We put the solar screens on all of our windows in the old building and kind of around the front here. So remember when you were driving by and we had the brand new windows on, the previous ones had been painted black because when we set these things up to help deaden the sound in here and improve our worship experience in here that way, the backside of them weren't painted, so it would look like we had a fire, or someone would say, hey, what happened? Did they have a fire in there? Because you see this plywood on the windows. So that's all hidden behind those solar screens. right? And so those are the things that we got for our $150,000 worth of investment. Were there more things we wanted to do? Absolutely. But we were authorized to go to 150, so we've stopped. If you're just dying to help us do some of those other things, you know, we've kind of brought around to this side of the building, mostly where you could see to the front the stucco look that's going here. We wanted to do another eighth of our worship center, which you can kind of see from the front, and just get that all taken care of, but funds weren't there, so we said we have to live within what the Lord has provided in that 150K. So we are there, very thankful for Jared Handgartner, who was trying to herd all us cats around as part of that team. And as you can imagine, if you ever go through redecorating at home, when there's more than one opinion, you know, it's kind of challenging, but Jared did a nice job kind of walking us through all of that. And I'm happy to have been able to serve with all those folks that you see listed there on the left with the team there. So that's where our 150,000, that was totally separate from our normal operating budget. So that's all gone now, or will be gone once we do the last things and pay those last bills. But that's where we're at with that. On behalf of the team, I'll say thank you, okay? And so let's keep going. We've got more stuff here. I'm starting on the spending side instead of the income side tonight. If you want to know where we've been in our fiscal year to date, this is the months of June, July, August, September, and October. Here's what it looks like. I know everyone likes pie charts and all that kind of stuff. If you're a numbers person, kind of look through those. But you'll see that the majority of our spending has been in the admin area. That's where salaries and fees for, you know, giving, coming in online, all that kind of stuff happens in the admin area. Our next largest area are the building and grounds, which the next slide will show some updates for some of the things that we've done that have been part of that. Church ministry, that 18,175 is youth ministry, children's ministry, life group, all those kind of ministry things that we have in our budget fall under that category. That nice little slice of 1278 is, you know, every once in a while you got to update a computer. So that kind of stuff is that little slice. The 37,625 is our missions spending. Right now we're at 9.7%, so we're a little behind in our giving because we're always working to provide 10% of whatever the body brings in. We're investing outside of our body. That's just part of what Grace has done since its inception, and it's a great thing to continue. The 42,750 is the payment that's come down on our mortgage. Again, one of those bits of information. We kept our mortgage payment the same in our spending plan, even though we could have lowered it, because we're doing that. Not only did we get a benefit of a lower interest rate, but this way we'll pay it off a little sooner than the 30 years that it was refinanced for, okay? And then those other small areas, office expenses, pastoral outreach, and worship and music, the things that go on in here as we've invested, continue to invest to bring us up to date with, you know, instead of having one camera for our live feed, now we have 3 of those. And really that's partially even outside our budget, because someone came up to Pastor Bill and said, hey, what do you need? And then the next day we had a check for that amount, and we were able to move that forward. That was done anonymously outside of giving. That's over and above giving, which is really exciting and doesn't necessarily show up in here, but that was part of how God's been at work in our body. So that's spending. Does anyone have any questions about spending? What's your question? The GEM ministry has a totally separate operating budget, okay? All right, let's go to the income side. Or, well, okay, major maintenance items. These are some of the things that we did here. As part of that, we've got some before and after pictures there, the top 2, or on the top 2 going left to right, that's a kind of a before and after of the outside of the building. And then the 2 below that are the before and after for the inside of the building. And again, you already gave kudos to Bill and And you know, the outside is painted gray now instead of that yellow because the youth group did that during their week of service under the tutelage of Bill in his painting and stuff. But anyways, it's really hard to see on the picture of our building, but that, I put that in there because at the top, you notice this if you look for it, that's our lightning protection that we have. Remember that lightning strike we had in June that kind of took us to, well, the insurance company said, no, we're not going to pay for you to reground that. You'd have to do that. Okay, and of course, once we ask the question, it's like, well, if we don't reground it, you know, get the full lightning protection and we get hit again, they're probably going to say, you didn't fix that? We're not going to, you know, so rather than take that risk, we've got all those little foot-long things that go across the top of the building, across the ridges, that we have a bonded company that is now taking care of our licensing. So if we get into that, another lightning strike, we'll probably get to go through that fun experience of, is the bonding company paying for this or is the insurance company paying for this? Because anyways, but that'll be my problem, not yours. So, but anyways, that was a major investment. That was 10 grand that we spent just to get that done. And we took that out of maintenance. The other one, I got a picture of the doors there. If we would have replaced the front but left those doors that kind of needed some, well, they needed more than just Bondo, right, to be replaced. We replaced the doors that are right there, the ones in the electrical room, plus the 2 entry doors, all the glass doors coming in the front to just finish that off. We would have had to do that anyways because we couldn't lock the front doors. These were falling apart, so we just took care of those. Those were some major expenses that came out of that maintenance category, which is building grounds, which was the 60 grand thing that we saw earlier. So let's go to the next one. We'll talk about kind of where we're at other than maintenance. Let's go back a slide then, excuse me. Okay, so here you see right now spending versus income at the highest level. We are short 36,810. So we're operating in the red, right? Black means you've got more income than expenses. And this has really happened over the last couple of months based on our giving levels. We've got a target to reach every week that we get $18,974 or $794, one of those two ways. It'll be on the other slide. But we're falling in underneath that. So we've got that little pink gap between what we spent this year and what has been given. So we're trusting the Lord to continue to work through us, right? There's no home office that sends us money every year or anything like that. What we as a body do, what we give and contribute towards our operating expenses is what we're working through. So we're a little bit upside down right now, and again, that's happened over the last couple of months. And then, Robert, let's go, because that's the picture that kind of shows what's happened week over week, okay? And you can see it's just up and down and up and down and up and down. And there was that one really big month when someone made a nice stock donation, which drove things up. God provides in many different ways. I wish he'd just get all of us doing something and the line would be flat and we just know everything that comes in every week, but that's not how God operates. He kind of says, trust me and we'll do this. So there have been 4 times where the top touches or goes over our line there. Our target of 18,974 is that maroon or purple line going across there. We've met our goal 4 times in the first 5 months of the year, okay? I would feel much better if we were meeting it more regularly than 4 out of, let's see, 20 months. So as the Lord, or yeah, weeks, not months. As you're considering where to invest, you've heard what your investment in the normal operating expenses here at Grace goes to do, the things that we've seen as we celebrate what God's up to. But we need to let you know, hey, here's where we're at. We're upside down right now. And that's not a place that any of us want to be. We know we can't do that for a sustained period of time. At home around the table as we work those deals out, we can't do that here at Grace either. But if we don't tell you, you don't know. So we'll maybe find some creative ways to let that be known. We'll continue to give the giving updates throughout as we go here. And then, again, bar charts. The blue is the expenses we've had, offerings that come in. You see that shortfall. And then that green line is if we would have spent $18,974 every month, that'd be where that that essential line comes up. So if we actually were spending week over week, normally, 18,974 a week, instead of being upside down by that 30 grand, we'd be 60 grand upside down. I'm going to show you a confusing slide. So don't be confused when you see it, but there's some I want you to see on that extra slide. Rob, do you have that up there, Robert? The three-year thing? Because I think this is important. As I say this about where we're at, I want to show you something else, not to make you feel better about where we're at, but just to talk about what has happened over the last couple of years. Yep, no problem. Yes, that's not the one. That's not the one I made. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Down to the right is not what you want to see happening. Okay. So this has 3 years worth of data, right? That green line that's on there is the same one we saw all by itself, so you could really see what's going on this year. But if you'll notice, we're about to hit a peak where end of year giving kind of goes up there. You see those over the last couple of years, end of year giving, and then a little bit after January. We get money that comes in that helps us be in the black by the time we get all the way through the fiscal year. That's just what's happened traditionally. I don't know if that's what God has in mind or not for us this year. But I like to show that and give us context for how we're comparing this year to where we did last year. The thing that causes me a little heartburn, again, I trust the Lord for whatever he's going to do, is the fact that we're seeing that green line go down when in the past it's been kind of on its way up. So that's there. But we want to be right up front with you and let you know where we're at financially as a church. And we are wholly dependent on us to fund the ministry that God has done here. And we're trusting God to do that through his people here at Grace. Okay? Can I say one other thing? Please? Please, Mr. Russ. Hey, I am really excited about what's going on in children's ministry right now. And Russ kind of alluded to this earlier, a children's ministry leadership position. Okay? And I know I just told you where we're at financially right now. It's time, folks. God is doing amazing things in the children's ministry. He has brought a number of people in as part of the 41 who are coming in. He's provided people that are here right now. I am ready to hire the children's ministry director. And, we said a year and a half ago, hey, we're trusting the body to provide, and as we see that, we're ready to step out. I'm ready to step into the Jordan. Remember Joel's thing about we stepped in and the waters parted? Okay? I am ready to do that. And so join me in praying that God will begin providing all the resources we need, because that number, that essential number in there, that 18,794 or 974, whichever that is, okay? That number includes the children's ministry director position. That's why we're only 60 grand upside down right now that's the difference. We haven't been laying that cash out right now. But I think it's time to start laying out the cash. God's brought a team of people here. They just need someone who can be there full time to guide and direct and equip them to accomplish the ministry that God's called us to do. So I am very bullish, as you would say, on children's ministry and moving that forward. And I hope to have something to tell you guys before we even get to December. But that's stuff that we have to work out, because I know you mentioned that earlier today too. So that's my update on the children's ministry side of things. I'm very excited about what God's going to do. He's going to ask us to trust him, but I'm excited, and I've already seen things that are going on to get us ready to take that step.
Okay. All right. And then I have, it looks like you're set up there. Just advance notice. As the elders, as we look at the Constitution that we have, there are just some things that are different in there compared to where we are right now as a church. And so we would like to propose some content changes to the Constitution. We're not going to do that tonight. According to our Constitution, it takes 2 meetings in order to make that happen. One meeting we propose this and have some dialogue, and then continue to have dialogue, and then we vote on it on the next meeting. So we need to have 2 meetings to do that. But I just want to let you know that it is coming. I don't think it'll come as crazy surprises to us. There are even some things in the Constitution that actually we're not really doing as a church now. And just to have integrity, and we don't feel like we should be doing them as a church. So just to have integrity, we'd like to change the Constitution to reflect what we think makes sense. But when we get to that point, we'll make that all clear, and you can ask questions, and we can have a dialogue about that. Okay? All right, and that should be next spring. Okay, next slide, please. Oh no, please, next, please. Yeah, Robert. Yeah, there we go. All right. So I don't know if you saw the story. Where's Bonnie? Where is she? This is crazy. Yeah, you're stuck with Art. Yeah. So if you didn't see the Stories of Grace with Rick and Bonnie, it was just classic. And at one point, he kind of reached out and he gave her a kiss, and she's kind of embarrassed but smiling and everything. It was really cute. But I accused him at that point of creating the first PG version of Stories of Grace that we've ever had. Thanks a lot, Rick. So anyhow, let's move on to our story of grace here, our live story of grace. So Chris Mix, one of our elders, is going to interview a couple that's relatively new life group leaders, Alan and Tedra Johnson, and Alan is also one of our elders. So let's just kind of do a live stories of grace as an interview.
Yeah, is this thing on? Okay, that's good. Hi, so as Russ mentioned, I'm Chris Mixon. I've had the privilege of serving on the elder board with Alan. We've actually got kids together at Lovejoy, so we get to run into each other quite a bit. So I'm excited to kind of lead you through our first ever live Stories of Grace. I'm more excited that I'm not in the hot seat where it's live and there are no redos.
That's nice, Chris.
Yeah, and there is such thing as a wrong answer. So yeah. But no pressure. Hey, so maybe to start off, if you guys could introduce yourself, how long have you been at Grace?
I'll go ahead. Is mic on? We're good? All right, awesome. So Alan and Tedra Johnson, we moved down to Texas a little over 5 years ago, and our first stop was actually here at Grace, and this was the most welcoming church we had ever experienced. I think Dick Erickson practically tackled me at the door, and soon I was introduced to 20 people, and I came and visited the first Sunday. I was down here. Tedra shortly followed, and it's just been an amazing journey ever since. So we are proud parents to 5 kids, and we've got just the whole gamut. We've got from 19 down to 5 years old, and it's just been a blessing to be in every part of the ministry here at Grace. Anything to add? Yeah, good. All right.
So part of what we wanted to talk about with the Story of Grace is really your involvement in life groups. And so can you share a little bit of, when you first walked in the doors at Grace, how did you get into a life group? How did that happen for you?
Well, when we first started, I think one of the first things I plugged into was back in Awana. I did some check-in because I could have my newborn sitting in the car seat next to us. And so Susan Richards we were working check-in together, and she told me about her life group, and that she seemed to think they were a pretty good crew. So she said we could come check them out, and we did shortly after, and they let us continue to come. And so that was a great way to meet some really great people, and we were able to include our kids in that and get them to connect as well as a family. And so that's kind of our first encounter, how we got plugged in. It kind of just happened through talking with someone else I don't think they had been in the life group that long either, but we're enjoying it, so opened it up.
Yeah, I think what I love about that is it really was some intentionality on Susan's part to really reach across and invite you, right? It wasn't some part of a Sunday morning, process that you went through, but it was really somebody being intentional about inviting you in to connect and be part of their life group.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think that it really is part of the heart of grace. We'll get into this a little bit more later on, but in our life group, I think if everyone showed up now, we would have close to 50 people, and that is not because Tedra and I have been out inviting everyone who we run into at Grace. It's because our life group just has a heart for reaching people who are new and reaching people who are not connected. And all of a sudden, 3 of our current life group families brought like 4 new families, and we're like, okay, Lord, awesome. This is a good problem to have. We'll figure this out, and it's been a huge blessing. And so I think that if we all had really that heart for ministry and outreach, it would just be amazing. I see it. I see it here every Sunday, but I think that there's more to do.
Yeah, and so the life group that you guys are in now is not the one you started with, right? And so can you share a little bit about how did you go from joining a life group to now leading your own life group?
So it actually wasn't too long after we joined Grace that we did get connected with the Peters Life Group, and having moved down to Texas, we're native Minnesotans. I know long O's. My daughter Elena gets teased about them. Our life group here really became our extended family. And so, there's just no better way to say it. And so, we were with them for a little over 3 years, I think, 3.5 years. And about 6 or 7 months before we split off to start our own life group, we kind of felt God prompting us to head in that direction. And so the way that happened was, we were meeting these just new, awesome people who were new to Grace. And we're talking with them, and they're not connected. And the Peters Life Group already had, I don't know, like 13 families. I mean, it's this huge life group. So, what are we going to do about this? And, honestly, we were the reluctant servants. Like, we didn't want to leave our life group. It was like we felt this call every Sunday come. The guilt was a little bit more. And ultimately, I think that we prayed a lot about it. We got together and decided to just step out in faith and start our own life group. And so it was hard. I think to Olivia's question, right? Like, what are we doing about getting new life groups started, and how are we preparing leaders? At that time, we had the example of the Peters Life Group, and that was about it. Right, so we knew kind of how that worked and what that model looked like, and that was a lot of what we carried into our life group. But there's more that we can be doing to help mentor and provide support to people who want to take that step out in faith.
Yeah, and when you said reluctant, we were like the thought, like, okay, they could use more life groups had come up probably 9 months to a year before we're like, yeah, that's not us. Like, we didn't feel tapped at that time, but we did. And there were people who had come to Grace just shortly after we did, and they still just hadn't found a life group. So God kind of brought these people. It was definitely not like any of our doing. He kind of brought this group together, and it felt like, okay, it was unavoidable, and we really did want to be able to extend this opportunity of fellowship to beyond, because we were obviously blessed by what we were experiencing. It felt wrong not to do that or provide that for other people who, and great people that we were being able to spend time with from there. So it was.
Yeah, in terms of, so Tedra, you used the word extend, right? I don't think you guys would have stepped out to lead a life group if you weren't seeing value in the one that you were in. And so if you were speaking to somebody that was new to Grace and they were kind of on the fence of, I don't know if I want to join this whole or do this whole life group thing, what are some of the things, or I guess blessings or value that you see in your life group, maybe in your current one or the one you were in with the Peters, and how would you sort of, I guess, advise somebody that was thinking about it?
Yeah, we've been able to, well, having our family far away, so these are the people that you text when you need somebody to pray for you. You're glad to cover if they have a need. It's a blessing to bless them. We get to see our kids connect with other kids and our families connect. And serve together has been something that our life group is like hungry to do more of. Just projects that they've been able to do. And maybe you can talk more about some of the things we've been able to do together. But just all of those opportunities and just to feel connected. And then, of course, coming to church on Sunday, you have those familiar faces that you connect with. And I've loved to see our life group, like you were saying, they get so excited about meeting new people. They'll tell us about the new people they've met. And just because of the welcome they felt they received, they just are passing it on. And I just think that's what, that's just what the church, what we should all be doing. So I'm just inspired to see their heart for the church.
So we've talked about a lot of the good stuff. I know that leading life groups, there are challenges. Can you share a little bit about some of the challenges that you guys have had as leaders, and how have you seen God maybe provide or through that process?
Yeah, well, I mentioned, it a little bit with, as we started out a life group, and of course, God didn't make it easy on us. I mean, the first step was easy. We showed up and we, I think we talked to the fasts and said, hey, got a question for you. We're looking at starting a life group. Would you like to, come join us every other week and do life with us? And they're like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's do it. So then I'm rolling down, the hall in the back, and I run into Eric Parks, and we're going to ask the Parks as well. And I said, Eric, I have a question for you. And he says, the answer is yes. Okay, do you want to know what the question is? Nope, the answer is yes. I think Andrew had gotten to him, quite honestly. But the first part of just, these people who we had been spending, 10, 15, 20 minutes with on Sundays and seeing, on Wednesdays with kids and activities, just really were, thankful and had a desire to do this and to take that next step. But, we did that, and I think about 2 weeks later, COVID hit. and this is, this is just God's humor, right? So we're like, okay, we just stepped out of this group that we're totally embedded in, and here we are, trying to connect with these people. And so, Zoom was the way of getting to know each other a little bit. And, ultimately we had to go through a process of, okay, when do we get together in person? And we had folks that were comfortable with that right away, and there were other folks who, even after we said we're gonna meet, we're gonna get together, and if you're not comfortable, we will still include you, and pray for you, but you don't need to come. And so that was a little bit of the curve as we started, but just finding time, finding consistency. We had invited some folks to our life group who never showed up. I mean, they said they would, and after about 9 months of reaching out to them, they just, they didn't come. And some of that was COVID related, and then, some of it is just life is busy, so not everyone can get together. So then we started to feel, called to say, okay, maybe we can do more. And we talked to the group and said, let's collectively just be on the lookout for folks who may need this type of community and would be blessed by that. And boy, did they deliver. And that was awesome. But then, we had, I think 42 people in our home a few weeks ago. And it was awesome, but it was chaos. I mean, wherever I go, chaos follows. So, just, be careful about the association. Yeah, that's with kids. So that's, what it was, 8 families, I think. Yeah. And so, one of the things that we've been intentional about is we want to do life together as families. And so we recognize that there are some groups where that's not the need of the people, and they don't bring kids, and that's awesome. But for us, we really value the community of the life group for our kids too, and the chaos is awesome. I joke about it, but it's awesome. And so like over 2/3 of the population of the 42 are kids, and they connect, and we have been very intentional about trying to find opportunities to go camping, opportunities to get out and serve together as families, and to really keep that community together with the kids as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I know, Tedra, you bragged on the life group and just how everybody has a heart for inviting others in, but it also sounds like you as leaders sort of set that tone with your life group, right? And I don't know if it's, maybe empower them would be the right word to kind of go off and do that. As you think about maybe people that are just now starting to lead a life group or considering it, how would you guide them or coach them based on your own experience and overcoming, Alan, the challenge that you talked about of, the only model I had was the group that we were in. There wasn't any kind of formal training. We just stepped out in faith to go do it. So, what kind of coaching or guidance would you give to a new leader or prospective life group leader?
You want to start? I just did a lot of talking.
Sure. I guess I would just have them, look for other, first pray about it. Ask God, who are you calling a group together? What is this? What would this look like? Where do you want me to look? And because I think, I feel like God put people on our hearts or brought people directly to us. Like there wasn't a whole lot of digging, searching, researching. He kind of, he'll equip you for what he's calling you to do. So I felt like he made that part pretty easy. And then really, since the focus is on doing life together, being accountable to each other, caring for each other, you don't need a theology degree necessarily, because our focus hasn't. We do studies together. We talk, of course, talk about spiritual things together, but really, we're just trying to be, true, and vulnerable, and transparent with each other, and available to each other. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think, this is, we have a number of Bible studies that go on here at Grace. And so this isn't just about, getting a different group together to do a Bible study. It's about doing life together, and it's about having those conversations and seeking prayer and seeking help and offering help and having community, and it's just amazing. And so I'd say, first of all, don't be intimidated by that. Second of all, we have an amazing group of leaders here at Grace. Everyone from the pastors and staff, but also just a whole group of life group leaders who I know would be willing to come alongside of you if this is what you felt like you were being called to do. I would personally volunteer to do that. I can't do it everywhere, but I know that we have just amazing life group leaders who would come alongside, and Bill with Chris are focused on actually developing some more training materials and actually formalizing this as we go forward. And so there's more to come. I mean, we don't just put a ministry end out there that says we're going to be a church, of life groups, not just with life groups, without actually investing in that. And so more is to come. But in the short term, if you feel God leading you in this direction, if He's putting that on your heart, absolutely pray about it and reach out to one of us to seek that help.
One more question? Okay. Was that a yes, or was that a begrudgingly yes? Yeah. Yeah. So last question. I think, and Alan being part of the board, I think you may have a little bit of a unique perspective. How do you see the life group ministry really feeding into the overall mission and vision of Grace?
Yeah, super passionate about life groups. One, just because of the value that we've, personally received from it. Not just community, but just spiritual growth through that as well. And I think that, if we truly are going to be a church that is focused on making disciples, we need to lean into that. We need to be disciples, and we need to be making disciples. And life groups are just an amazing, right-sized, right frequency kind of forum to do that. And so I think it's something that God hasn't just put this on my heart. We talk about this a lot as the elders, as the elder team, and with the pastors. And I think that there are just some amazing things that are going to happen through this. So.
All right, that's it. Hey, let's give it up for the Johnsons. Thank you. First ever live Story of Grace. You guys are awesome.
All right. So, hey, just questions and answers. I know we've talked about a lot of things, just a real broad spectrum of things today. Any questions that has come up that you've been kind of sitting on and thinking, boy, I'd love to ask this? I know there's been some questions along the way, and I think that's great.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Just as regarding the finances. I mean, I'm here every day, and I didn't even know what the finances were. So how do we plan on communicating that out to the body? I mean, I think generally speaking, if it's not communicated, everybody thinks we're making our budget or, making our expenses. So what is the plan to actually communicate it out beyond this room?
Actually, that's a good question. With respect to giving, it's one of those things, and you've probably seen these before, but a very small percentage of people at Grace end up providing most of the funds. That if more people gave through there, we would, Blair talked about his essentials, the essentials budget that keeps the lights on, basically, and we're short of that. But, it's not atypical to be a little bit below that at this time. But there is a vision budget that the staff has that says, boy, if we had this much more revenue, we could do this and this and this. And so the question it becomes, okay, how do we keep that need in front of the body? And Pastor Joel, I think he said a couple weeks ago, he feels like from the pulpit, he has talked about money more this year than any year that he's ever done. And part of that, I know his heart is he wants people to be faithful in the area of giving and to say, God, these resources, are yours. Direct me the way you want to direct me. And so, but Diana, you bring up a good question. Specifically, it sounds like you're saying, hey, the specifics of that need helped me know. And so I don't know that we have a specific plan to make that clear, but Blair, you want to address that?
I'd like to see a show of hands for the people who are in here. I know we can't see the show of hands on the live feed, but if we put up a graphic in the pre-service slides every week, would that be a helpful thing?
Okay, if you think it would be helpful on the pre-message slides or pre-service slides to have a graphic like that shows where we are with respect to our year-to-date budget or something, how many of you would think that would be a good idea, would be helpful? Okay, so for the record, we're maybe about 30% of us. How many of you would feel like, no, that's definitely not a good idea? Anybody in that camp? Okay, we've got maybe 20% there. And then the rest are kind of, either way, I guess. Okay, Sherry's got some.
I guess because that would include new people and it would look like that was a portion of our focus.
Okay.
But what about, when we're sending these emails about information, at least like monthly, maybe just a little blurb, what's going to hurt? Obviously, not everyone opens that. But aren't those all pretty much either regular attenders or members that are getting that email? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but.
Probably.
Okay,
probably.
it seems like that would be an informational way, and sometimes people talk about things.
Yeah. Say, okay, here's how we're doing. All right. Good. Good question. Okay. Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, we could just do like a clickable link on the website because we want to drive people to the website. We could put a link there with financial updates or whatnot for people. Even if we wanted to include it in the email, hey, for financial updates, visit this or whatever.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Nicole?
Okay, so my question is along the lines of the children's minister, children's pastor, children's director, whatever we are looking at. And at what point are we going to say the chicken comes before the egg or the egg comes first? I mean, I work at GEM 4 days a week, and we have, I can't remember the exact number of families that we have at GEM. We have over 180 students, and I can tell you, I'm sitting here counting the families, and off the top of my head, I can't count more than 12. Now, there may be more than that actually attend Grace. So I feel like we are really missing the mark when we are not bridging GEM with our children's ministry. And so at what point are we going to decide this is so important? If one of our ministry ends is to bring in younger families and we don't have a children's person, they don't match. That doesn't match. So at what point are we going to say, we're going to put faith in God's going to provide and we're going to do it?
That's a great question, Nicole. It is sooner than later in terms of making a short-term call on that. It's one of those things. If you decide, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to step into the water, you go all in, right? And we can adjust it a bit and say, okay, we can adjust the parameters of the position so financially it's a little bit easier for us to handle and so forth. But at the point that you commit for a period of time, and you trust that God provides to cover it. And if God doesn't provide for whatever reason, or we got it wrong, or whatever, then we adjust at that point. But I think a short-term decision is probably sooner than later. Yeah, good question. No, we're still on Q&A. Yeah, we got another question.
I have a question about on the chart with the expenses and the income in the shortfall. Is that being covered by a previous savings or equity from previous years?
Blair says yes.
Yes, that's why we can do this right now. We have a number of designated funds. We actually have about $35,000 that is set in reserve. If you remember, we were in the black last year, and we were in the black the year before. So we watch that regularly, and at this point, with the way things are going, we have our bookkeeper provide a weekly cash flow situation so we know what it is we've got and where we're really working at. Again, this is really, we've gone upside down in about the last 6 to 8 weeks, so this is relatively new. But yeah, we're watching that closely.
Good question. All right. Oh yeah, we have one more here.
Thanks.
Is it Chris?
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. No, you've come to church twice, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for being
And?
here. Yeah.
But I'm all for stepping out in faith and making those kind of moves. So if you hire somebody from the outside, though, what's the expectation you set? Are you making a one-year commitment with them with the knowledge that, hey, this is a faith effort for us?
Yeah. So the exact terms of it we'll have to figure out, but that's the right question, I think, because we just can't, I think we need to be honest with the people who come on that says, hey, this is where we are, and so that they're aware of it and so forth. And there is so much opportunity with the kids ministry. If it starts taking off, we could see amazing things happen, and then that second discussion never needs to happen. But anyhow, yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that our team will be clear on. Yeah, just to be honest.
I mean, the truth is, none of our salaries are guaranteed.
Right,
None of us.
right.
We're all here by the grace of God and what He supplies, and I've seen it time and time again with the GEM ministry. We didn't have the money to do it. If that was the criteria, it wouldn't be here. So we did, again, I feel like it's a biblical thing that says, if we know God's leading, I'm not saying be reckless,
right.
but if God's leading, He says step out. He doesn't say, wait till you see everything that I have for you and then go. And the thing is, if we were to bring somebody on, again, my salary's not guaranteed for this year either. Blair's isn't, Joel's isn't. I'm just saying, we're all at the grace of God for that. So I don't know that we should hold this one particular position up to a different standard in that sense. I mean, we all know, we've seen what the Lord's done through the youth ministry here. We have a dedicated full-time person. We give it lots of airtime on Sunday mornings, and I think that's fabulous, and it's been a wonderful, thriving ministry. We don't have that same commitment in our children's area, and I totally agree. We're at an all-time record for students at GEM this year. Over 200 slots are filled, so many different families. If we could truly make that connection, I'm starting to see it with all the family events we're doing and things more, we're making more of that connection. Some people were like this touch the truck thing. Well, why should I come, as part of Grace? One reason, only one, connect with GEM families. We don't want your money. We don't want you to come serve. Come talk to GEM families. We keep talking about making that bridge. So yeah, I'm really passionate about this. Trust me, I might lose some sleep some nights over it too. And we should only do it if you all really feel like we're leading. I just feel like we're getting conflicting messages as the body. We're going to do it. Let's go ahead and do it. We budgeted for it. No, we're not going to do it. We need to see these 3 things. No, I don't know. I'm confused myself. I'm glad we can have this kind of discussion here tonight, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, people ask those questions, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what the criteria is. So,
yeah.
sorry.
Thank you. I'm personally praying that God would develop more of a passion in you, Diana, so you would. No, these are excellent questions, and they do come up, and they come up at the elder board, and we understand there's some intensity behind this, and I know the staff is talking about it and working on it, and so it is right in front of us consistently, and so our expectation or our desire is to move forward, even if we don't move forward with a yes right now, at least we move forward with a no and a why, right? If we don't feel like it's God's telling us to go this way, then we do that, or we move forward with a yes. But it's not fair to just kind of stay on the fence. Very good. Okay, good. Anything else? Yeah, we've got one more. Olivia?
I just have a suggestion in the mindset of 24/7 living on ministry, and while we're kind of on hold waiting for a children's pastor, but one thing that we all can do is invite a younger family to dinner, or do something lower, go to Hat Creek Burgers. They've got this giant outdoor play place, so maybe you don't have kids, but you can invite, I was talking to my son Timothy, who's 27, I think, can't remember, but anyway, he's in a new church, and there's an older couple. They're completely empty nesters, but they had like 2 or 3 of the younger guys over. So it's something that we can do, is reach out to younger families, help them feel connected, and we don't have to wait for a children's pastor to do, or go to the touch the truck thing like Diana's talking about, but just in the everyday life, think of ways, how can we reach out to one family? I mean, like, it doesn't even have to be a weekly thing. one time.
Right.
Ask someone to go to lunch after church or something.
I love
you
your
know.
vision, Olivia. I really do. And I look around our church and I see that we have a number of folks who've been around the block a few times. We've raised kids and so forth. And if we could, I think that's a huge resource. And not only that, but we're open to God using us in the lives of other people. And I think that's a huge asset that as God brings more young families here, to connect with them in ways that where we can help out where we can. You know, we're not, you know, we're not green, right? And we can help. And I think it's a huge asset if we can figure out how to do that well. Thank you, thank you. Okay, let me see. I know we're a little bit over time. I'm gonna go ahead and close this off. Robert, next slide. Yeah, thank you. Thank you is good. And that's first of all to you, Robert. Thank you. And I mean that. But yeah, I did just want to say thank you. Thank you. All the celebration of grace and stuff, that's us. That is us. And us trying to be faithful to the Lord, faithful followers, faithful to be the light, faithful to share his truth. And it's great to be a part of this body. And thank you for all that you do and all that you have done. The final thing here is a survey. It's a quick survey. It's 5 questions, but we would love to get feedback from you about this session. What you liked, what you didn't like, what you would love to see different next time. So please go ahead and fill that out. And also there are some cookies there if you want to just hang out for a little bit, cookies and tea and so forth. But otherwise,
Survey.
Rick,
Survey. Survey.
Oh, so back to the survey.
Back to the survey.
Back to the. Oh, hey, that was Rick who said that. Okay. Otherwise, let me close this in prayer here. Oh, dear God, Lord, we thank you so much for this thing called the church that you have created to be your light and your vehicle to touch others. And Father, we just lift up Grace to you. God, this is your church, and God, we just ask that you would give us wisdom and help us to move the way you want us to move. Father, help us to touch people the way you want us to. Father, help us to be that church that you want us to be, that loves people in your name and speaks your truth. Father God, thanks so much. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, thank you. Thank you all. And